So,
So
mhm,
we just gonna brush over it real quick. I
okay.
I was born in Chicago under the banner of David Barksdale and Larry Hoover. I grew up between Chicago and Michigan. In Michigan, we lived in Grand Rapids and Pontiac. And in Pontiac, I had to go through a whole lot of my trials as a teenager, establishing my position in the community here. They call it putting in work, right? So I put in work here. They said I was a big fish in a small pond. So they took me out to Lake Michigan and flipped me across Lake Michigan back to where I was born to see if I could get it from the dirt and if I was truly a big fish in a small pond. Well, when they got done running their tests on me in Chicago, that's Chief Malik Angel Bay and Larry Hoover, the word came back. That nigga not no big fish in the pond in the lake. That motherfucker is a whale in the lake. Because I'm politically incorrect. So the politics ain't correct. So it's hard for me to be politically correct sometimes. Anyway, so during the course, I went through the system as we all end up doing when we out in the streets doing what we do out there. And going through the system, I began a journey of self-discovery and self-education. My oldest brother and my sister right under me, they used to buy my book supply. Instead of, how people always be like, send me some money when they lay locked up. I was like, send me some books, send me some more books. I was like Johnny Five, more input, more input. But I didn't know while I was going through my struggles that I was being trained for something. And my character being tested at every turn, slandered, talked about, looked down upon, frowned on, kicked to the curb, and I still stayed who I was. They call it remaining pure at heart. This is part of the testing for chiefs on the land. As we go across the land, how do you be received by the other clans on the land? And while I was trying to evade the law for 6 years, I used that 6 years to traverse the land and become familiar with the different customs from my elders in the South, from the Northeast. I was going over all of the territory that I was responsible for putting Big Mama back in her place so she can balance back out the tribes. So this was a journey of training that I didn't know I was on. Well, it came word through the Wind Talker channel. If you're not a native to the land, you have no clue what I'm talking about when I say Wind Talker channel. But the Wind Talker channel is they call them code talkers. The CIA used them in World War II to crack the Japanese codes when they was talking in code. But when we talk the wind talk, they can't never crack it because we listening to nature and we talking to nature. Nature, two chiefs is like being on the telephone. They can be in nature on different parts of the planet and communicate with each other using the method that we call the wind talking channel. And this is shamanic training of indigenous origin or organic American origin. Those who was here from time immemorial. We call them totem clans, right? The totem clans is the first clans. That's why that's the law of the totem pole is the law of the land, and the law of the flag is the law of the seas. We didn't wave flags over here until Europe settled over here. When Europe settled over here, we made a flag that we call the Confederate flag. And we made the banner known as the banner of the Great Law. So that we had a flag that shows our presence in places without being conspicuous to the enemy of who we are. So they demonized the Confederate flag, said it represented slavery and oppression to our people. All the time, it's Old Glory that all of the race's blood is settled on. The one we pledge allegiance to in elementary school because none of our parents don't know any better. It was Old Glory that Oklahoma City was bombed. It wasn't the Confederate flag. It was under Old Glory that Rosewood was burned down. It wasn't the Confederate flag. It was under Old Glory when they bombed the Move Party, the Move family, John Africa in Philadelphia. That was under Old Glory. But we have a selective memory if it doesn't fit the Eurocentric paradigm given to reject any possibility that one of us know what we're talking about. So when they say we had to teach a hard-headed people, I know what they mean now because we stuck on false narratives.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody got a piece of the false narrative that they will kill you about. The righteous.
I'm sorry.
Oops, I'm sorry, sweetie.
I don't want to stop you. I don't want to stop your wisdom at all.
Okay, so in settling back to who I am, because I'm from a totem clan, an old Mississippian, the Black Gorilla family, right? The Gorilla Clan, that's my totem. And the gorilla position is right before you go out into the arena. So we always on deck, but we ain't supposed to be called until nobody else can't fix the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I come in and I'm analyzing the historical narrative given, and then I'm knocking on the Wind Talker channel to verify if the information is correct. Now, some people would say that you get it from psychic means, but it's talking to chiefs. A chief that ever lived on this land, his spirit still speak from the ancestral realm on the Wind Talker channel. So we can communicate with all of the past chiefs using the Hayoka priest method of wind talking or code talking, talking to nature. The ancestral realm is weaved into nature. This is how we have clans named after animals. That's named after the animal because it's their totem. It's the family totem, right? And sometimes the family totem is a body part, as in the case of the Blackfoot, right? And they was called that for several reasons. One of them, because when they was going to the Gullah Wars, coming from the center of the country, they walked barefooted and the sun cooked their feet. When Big Mama seen them, she called them Blackfeet. Not to mention that was what they did to identify the enemies that they captured and killed, is take one of his foot. And anybody seen the decaying foot, it turned black. So all of these was terms to identify who they are, what they did. So when we listening to the elders, they left it in the pottery. They spit it in the music. We listen to the old Delta blues, and we can get codes out of there from the ancestors that was before the settlers. Because some of those songs, what they call old blues tunes, been sang for generations, telling us a story. Those are the griots of the land telling the story in song format that they used to do dancing around the fire. Now they put it on wax and ship it across the country. All of the people get exposed to it, but all of the people don't know what they're listening to. They think they just listening to good music, right? So you got songs like Keep My Mojo Working, right? What he talking about? You got a real big one called I Put a Hex on You. What they talking about? They reminding you that we was the ones who had the conjure of they call voodoo long before settlers came, and voodoo is using the forces of nature to do your bidding for you. So you don't have to go to war with nobody. You can just let the rain flood them out. You can let them get struck by a bolt of lightning. Master student, Malachi the master teacher.
That's a student.
I did all that debating in the joint. I debated with all of them. I debated with the Moors. I debated with the Nation of Islam, with the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Christians, and they all don't realize before 1492, none of that stuff that had nothing to do with us. No. First of all, it wasn't called voodoo in Africa. And it's still not called voodoo in Africa. But it's the same science of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
All shamans have a piece. That's why we got to use the Wind Talker channel so that when certain chiefs come, he can communicate with so many other chiefs to get their piece to put together the solution to whatever the problem is. No matter what it is. Every problem got a solution.
Every problem got a solution.
Because we too dark to tell them the truth. Our skin complexion doesn't match the 500 years of an inundation with pale faces as truth holders. So when we come, they tell you, I don't want to hear that black shit. Or they tell you, oh, you just talking that Islam stuff. They don't got nothing to do with Islam. Islam Arab culture. Well, that's not got nothing to do with us. They drugged that over here. Right?
And, yeah.
And they don't even know what it is. The people practicing Islam have no clue what Islam is. Only the Sufis know the truth that's willing to tell it. But they all think that the Sufi is crazy. And they tell the average Muslim to avoid the Sufi because they heretics. They don't believe that Allah, they believe in Allah. But because they was threatened with death, they teach it as Allah, but they know what it is in truth. When they talk about the Hijra is the march of the matriarchs. That's what all the elephants represented. They don't even know that. Right? And then it's telling you about the birds that flew in and dropped the burning stones on them that ate your flesh. Those were bombs. Those were bombs they was dropping from planes. But they have us thinking that Orville Wright, the Wright brothers, invented the plane. They've been flying around Earth for millions of years. All of a sudden, they think all this stuff is new. Ain't nothing new under the sun. We did all this stuff before. We gonna do it again. All we do as eternal beings is trying to find a cause for existence. So we need something to do for eternity. So we allow civilizations to rise and run their lifespan and fall. This is the last leg of the Babylonian Empire. Why do we say Babylonian Empire? Because the forces that's holding these fictitious governments in place trace all the way back to Babylon. Through Rome, through Greece to Babylon. Right? So if Babylon's doctrines is the doctrines that's ruling the world, then we have to be aware of what their doctrines is. They call the rights of sin or sin rights, named after Ninner sin. But they got you thinking that sin is a verb. It's something that you do. They don't tell you that sin is one of the gods. And that if you a sinner, you practice his doctrines. Well, what is his doctrines? See, all of these intelligent scholars, they know a lot of stuff, but they don't know what it means.
To me,
to be a sinner, you have to be a practitioner of what we call sin rites. That's Babylonian blood magic, Babylonian sex magic, and Babylonian money magic. They was passed in the Talmud and the Mishnah in pieces. And part of it is in the Torah, right? And they have other extant so-called Jewish writings, like the Holy Sephirah or the Kabbalah. That's all telling you what the sin rights is. So now you know when you take communion, why you a sinner, because you practicing the Babylonian blood right or simulated cannibalism. As long as you simulating the cannibalism and you believe that you consuming a deity, then you holding the construct in place with your energy, even if you don't know what it means. So they tell you to eat of his flesh and to drink of his blood, right? And they tell us that he drank from the holy chalice. He was the carpenter's son, but he drank from a holy chalice. And everybody like, it's a cup. No, the holy chalice is the chalice of the chaste woman, which is the design of a garment that she wore that covered up her holy parts, her sacred yoni. But we don't know what none of that stuff means, so we take the white man's lies to be the truth. That's just not the case. So going through the schools that I went through, I was able to see from a different perspective because I wasn't influenced by the educational system enough for them to control how I think.
So
They arrested development, didn't work. Yeah.
Was going down there to unchain them to come up.
That's a challenge to the paradigm given, that they never thought that we would be able to critically think enough to just analyze the narrative to determine if it was reasonable. Why would you bring all them people for Africa when it was people already here? Okay, one of the problems I got with them keep telling me my land stolen. I keep walking on it everywhere I go. Part of the theft had to be the concealment. Where is the concealment part of the theft? That's what they need to be trying to investigate. Because if we still see the land, then that means that it's another method of concealment for them to steal it. What are they concealing that is allowing them to hold on to the land?
And they're the visitors. They're the ones who came over here on this land.
See, from over here, from the paradigm of an organic Mississippi walking red clay dirt Negro, they want us to claim to be from Africa to disassociate ourselves from this land. Because once we disassociated from the land, we surrender the birthright.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
If you know who you are and you asserting your birthright on the land that you from, while you living free on the land, they have to honor that. But most of us want to accept the paradigm that was shoved down our throats in 400 years of Westerners educating our children as to what's to be accepted as the truth or not. It's a uniform system. You can't get that out your head. It's a uniform system. It's written in a uniform format to follow the uniform commercial code of the admiralty jurisdiction of the occupiers that's occupying our land. They didn't steal it. They just convinced you wasn't from it. It's still here, and you still, the sisters have the first right to the birthright of the earth rights. What that means is, by mitochondrial connection, first in time is first in order. This is why they say the last shall be made first and the first shall be made last, because the first was already playing the back position, the last position. Malcolm told you we was the caboose on the train. What is he telling you in tribal talk versus the common language? So now we have to put the caboose as the engine because the engine broke down. Now the caboose is leading the train as the engine, because it was really the engine the whole time. It was just the engine being dragged around by another engine. So If the last becomes first, that means that the so-called white man's world falls down and the black woman world returns. Well, we call it the black woman world because she's first in time, first in line for the inheritance of the earth right. The earth right is the right to restore the balance to Earth's nature, air, land, and water. That's the great law. The earth rights, RITES, is the practice of executing the restoration by restoring the great mother to her position of prominence. This is the only way Earth can be balanced. It's the only way it's ever been balanced under the great matriarchy of the great mother. Every 26,000 years, we have to rewrite the future. And over the course of the 26,000 years, what started out as a golden age will deteriorate because it's following the laws of nature, and that's called entropy. It can't stay a permanent system because nothing in nature is permanent. Everything rise up, fall down, rise up, fall down, ebb and flow, right? The blood of the original people is the blood right to redeem. Whether y'all believe me or not, these people know who every one of us is. They've been following us since birth. They followed our parents and our grandparents. And there's certain families that they kept the closest watch on.